Adorama TV presents The reDefine Show with Tamara Lackey.
I am sitting here with Vanessa Joy, and we are discussing her very, very beautiful wedding photography.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit, when you started, I think you have a very specific style to your work. Do you feel like when that emerged, was it a conscious effort? Was it something that you kind of looked at all your photographs and kind of went backwards and said, I obviously have this pulled together, or what was that?
You know, it was a huge process. I think it is for any photographer. When you're starting out, everything looks cool. So you're, I'm sepia this day, or
Yes.
X process this day, and then you look at
Purple tones.
Yeah, and then you look at your blog and you're like, what is this mess that has vomited all over my website? So I was trained as a traditional photographer. The guy that I worked for when I first started weddings was traditional photographer. So I learned portraiture, I learned how to pose, I learned all the fine tuning when it comes to weddings.
Right.
And then I started to see more work outside that. So I think I had that traditional base that a lot of photographers don't usually have.
Right.
And then started to evolve and really find my own style that I would say is soft but vibrant and timeless.
So would you say that, like, in terms of your education, it was something where you consciously wanted to go into like assisting and getting your feet wet, or you stumbled into something? How did that work?
I do have a degree in photography, but to tell you the truth, I didn't learn much. I really learned more hands-on.
What do you mean when you say that?
I didn't learn much that I can apply now. I didn't learn how to run a business. I didn't learn wedding photography. I learned fine art photography. And that's great. It's inspirational. I learned exposure. I learned, developing in a darkroom, things like that. Things that I love, things that made me passionate about photography.
Absolutely.
But I don't use any of it today. So when I really learned was when I started assisting for a wedding photographer in my area who happened to be my high school photography teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small world. And I really learned from him and built along that way, and then ended up learning more at conferences.
Yeah, so I think that you bring up a very good point, which is they're not really teaching a lot in the way of, and not everybody's going to start their own business. There's a lot within photography you can do that it doesn't include running your own business, but certainly any challenges that come your way that aren't within a syllabus, that I think is about 90% of the job.
It is.
Is how do I work around this? How do I figure this out? How do I, the lights shifting, the this and that, whereas most of the time, in what my understanding, because I also was completely self-trained, like a lot of people in the industry, but we end up having a lot of interns and production assistants come through our studio, and over again, it seems like they learn in a very controlled environment.
Yes.
With exactly certain lighting setups, and that's not a lot of what you face.
Right. It's not applicable in the real world. And then running a whole business is another thing. Whether even you're just a freelance photographer, just understanding what that means and how to keep track of your books and do that correctly.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of schools are starting to respond to that, because the feedback is pretty prevalent, and so it'll be interesting to see how things shift.
I hope they do.
But the on-the-job training is where it's at. So when you are out at a wedding, one thing that I learned in photography is that I had no idea how much of it was being a pack mule.
Oh my gosh, so much equipment.
The physicality of it. Do you have any techniques or ideas or ways that you kind of streamline it so you don't feel like you're carrying 78 things?
One thing I'm big on is having an assistant. It's crucial. It's crucial for my back. I get to offer my clients a value add. They have an extra, couple of hands around. And other than that, I exercise. I do a lot of yoga, and I work specifically on the parts that most photographers have problems with, upper back, neck.
And what are you shooting with? I don't even know that.
I'm shooting Canon, moving to the 1DX now, or who knows, we're at WPPI, and all prime lenses. So I do have a lot. Plus I do a whole same day edit process. So I bring a printer and a digital picture frame. And I have lights. I use Profoto lights, B1s and B2s, and so I do have a lot.
Yeah.
But my assistant carries most of it.
So how many weddings would you say you shoot a year?
20 to 25. Good
20
number.
to 25. Okay. And it's you, and who all is on the wedding then?
Myself, a second photographer, and then my assistant as well.
Okay.
So 3 of us.
Regardless of the size of the wedding.
Regardless of the size of the wedding, I want to bring the same quality to each one.
Yeah. No. Amen. System. And what would you say is the smallest wedding you've ever photographed in terms of the amount of people there?
A 4-hour wedding that was, I believe, 12 people.
And there's 3 of you there.
So, yep. It was that intimate.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It was one of my favorite weddings.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So you've been shooting weddings for how long now?
10 years, about, 10 years. I always have to do math when people ask me that.
I know. It all merges. But in that time, if you kind of look back and say, as I got started and as I was going through school and as I got the on-the-job training, how would you say you manage to separate yourself in terms of looking back? You're like, you know what, it was the right choice for me. I made a really smart decision there. Like, what would you say those turning points were for you in terms of being able to stand out in your field?
Right. Two big things. One was anytime that I was able to enhance my client experience, I knew I was moving in the right direction. Anytime, I'm getting good feedback from them, or negative, as long as it was moving me towards a better client experience. And then the other thing that was a major factor was learning to control my work environment so that I would have the quality of life that I wanted. So success to me was not being as busy as I possibly could be, and I was shooting 35, 40 weddings a year, and then I realized, you know what, that's not me moving in the direction I want to be.
Enhance the client experience. What does that mean to you?
Finding ways to wow them, surprise them, make them happy. I love gifting, kind of like one of my love languages, so I tend to give a lot of gifts to my clients. And
So if people want to learn more about you, your shooting style, learn from you, what can they do? Can you tell the people where they can go?
Yes, definitely. So you can find me and my wedding work at vanessajoy.com, but if you want to see some more of the educational things that I do, you can go to learnphotovideo.com and find me there.
Wonderful. And on social media?
Social media, go to those websites and find them. They're all linked.
They're all on there.
I just feel like we have so much social media now, it'd take me 10 minutes to rattle off every Instagram, Pinterest.
But you're there and you're alive on it.
Yes, constantly.
But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use adoramapix.com.